Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. The first thing that we need to clarify here is, what is a 70% savings rate? What does that actually mean? Well, to put it as simply as possible, if you have $100,000 of net income, that is also known as take-home pay, if you put $70,000 of that $100,000 towards building your net worth, such as paying down debt, such as investing, such as like saving it for financial independence, then you are said to have a 70% savings rate. And that is the same no matter what your income is. Whatever amount of your income, your take-home pay that you're putting towards growing your net worth, that is generally considered your savings rate. And more specifically, today we are talking about achieving a 70% savings rate. That is a very significant amount of your income going towards building your net worth. Now, why would we be talking about a 70% savings rate? It sounds pretty extreme. If you want to achieve financial independence in about 10 years or less, then if you can achieve a 70% savings rate, then most likely if you receive average market returns over those next 10 years, starting from zero, like a $0 net worth, then it's very likely that you will be able to achieve financial independence following, let's say, the 4% safe withdrawal rule. And that is if you are able to save about 70% of your income. That is the argument we are making here. 70% savings rate can get you to financial independence in less than 10 years. And that's why it's really important to talk about if a 70% savings rate is actually sustainable. Are you going to be actually able to do this for, the next 10 years in order to achieve financial independence starting from zero? And that is one of the big questions here. Is it even possible to save 70% of your income? The short answer to that, I would say, is yes. It's definitely possible to save 70% of your income, but it's going to take some special circumstances. You're going to have to be in a special circumstance in order to make 70% possible. Saving 70% of your income when you're making $50,000 per year is going to be extremely difficult and near impossible. If you're making $40,000 a year, it's going to be very, very difficult to save 70% of your income. But if you're making $100,000 per year, it might be a little bit more possible to save 70% of your income. And if you're making $200,000 per year, it might even be a lot easier to save 70% of your income. And so as you can see, the more money you make, the more income you have coming in, the easier it is, it's probably going to be to save a higher percentage of that income and put it towards your financial independence. And that's one of the secrets to actually getting to a 70% savings rate. But the very first thing that you need to do if you want to achieve a 70% savings rate or get anywhere near it is you're gonna have to like this video, okay? Like this video if you're enjoying it so far. Trust me, we're about to get into the good stuff right now, but still, if you're enjoying it so far, please make sure you like the video. It does help me out, and I really do appreciate that. But let's get on to how to achieve a 70% savings rate. In order to get to the 70% savings rate, this magical rate, it's the same steps that you're gonna have to take in order to get to any level of savings rate. It's the same steps that you're gonna have to take to get to a 10% savings rate, 20%, 30%, 40%, and all the way up to 70%. So these steps are the same, it's just that you might have to do them a little bit more extremely, as you would say. So you're going to have to basically step up all of these steps in order to make 70% possible. And by far, one of the most important steps is step number one. And step number one is you're going to have to get your income to be pretty darn high. The higher you can get your income, the more likely you are going to be able to achieve such a high savings rate. You're going to probably need to try for at least 6 figures per year. This is probably going to be easier if you're a 2-person household. But even if you're by yourself, you're going to have to work pretty darn hard if you want to achieve that 6 figures per year, because most likely that is what it's going to take in order to achieve a 70% savings rate. Now, can you achieve a 70% savings rate making less than 6 figures, 90,000 per year, 80,000 per year, 70,000 per year? Yes, definitely you can. But I think for most of us, we're gonna probably have to get into that really high income range in order to save around 70% of our income. And that's why if you're trying to achieve a really high savings rate, this should be almost like priority number one. Get your income to be very, very high, because it's gonna be hard not to be able to save that much money when you have so much money coming in. Secondly, number two is almost just as important, and that is that you're going to have to slash your expenses. You're going to have to keep your expenses low, because if you're making $100,000 per year, you can't be spending $100,000 per year. In this case, you're going to have to be spending $30,000 per year, which is a pretty decent middle-class lifestyle there, depending on what part of the country you're in. However, if you first go with trying to slash expenses down to the bone and not increase income first, it's not going to work out as well if you're trying to achieve a really high savings rate, such as 70%. So that is why the income had to come first, but the expenses does have to be there. there. You do have to be able to reduce your expenses down to a manageable level based on your income level. And then after you've mastered your income and you've mastered your expenses, number 3 is you're going to have to optimize everything. So you're going to have to optimize your income, you're going to have to optimize your expenses, you're going to optimize your tax bill and all this kind of stuff. After we've got the bigger picture figured out, we've got a lot of income coming in and we've got a lot of low expenses, then you can start optimizing those. Because even if you do have $100,000 of income coming in, just by slashing your expenses, like following some normal advice, you're still probably not going to get down to $30,000 per year. You're probably spending. You're probably still not going to be at 70% savings rate. So in that case, you're going to have to optimize some things, especially if you're making a high income. One of the most important things that you're going to have to optimize is your income taxes, especially your federal income taxes. And depending on what state you live in, you might have to find ways to optimize those income taxes as well, because taxes are most likely going to be one of your biggest expenses, especially as your income goes up. And so this is where we need to start optimizing. We can start optimizing our income to keep more of it away from taxes. We can start optimizing our expenses to keep them very low, but still maintain a high quality of life. And that is step number 3 to getting to that 70% savings rate. And like I said before, that is the same steps that you're going to have to take to get to any level of savings rate. It's just that it's going to have to be bumped up a few levels if you want to get to such a high rate of 70%. And that all sounds well and dandy, right? That sounds just fine. It sounds like a very doable thing. And I think that it is doable for some people. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with savings rates in general. Okay, they just don't work out the way that they work out in a calculator. Achieving a 70% savings rate, is it sustainable? This is the question we're kind of trying to answer here. I would say that it's not actually sustainable for a very long time for most people. Now, that is okay. That doesn't mean that all is lost. It doesn't mean that financial independence can't be achieved in 10 years or less. But I don't necessarily think you need to get to a 70% savings rate and maintain that exactly for 10 years. And here's the problem with savings rates in general. First off, they are not going to be constant. And that's because life is not constant. Your expenses are not constant. Your income is generally not constant as well. So things do change. Your income can go up, your income can go down, your expenses can go up, your expenses can go down. So there are life circumstances where these things are going to change. Your savings rate is most likely not going to be a perfect like 70% every single time. And that is okay. That's just how life works. We have unexpected expenses that are going to go over our original intended budget. We have unexpected drops in income that are going to cause our income to go down and therefore reduce our savings rate as well. There are all these things because life is not 100% predictable, and that is perfectly fine. Plus, at the same time, when you're initially trying to get up to that 70% savings rate, you don't just go from a 0% savings rate right down to a 70% savings rate. No, you have to gradually work your way up there. You might first be able to achieve a 10% savings rate your first year as you're still learning to optimize your income and optimize your expenses and reduce your expenses and increase your income. So you might be slowly working your way up there. It might take a few actual years to get up to that 70% level because it is definitely not easy. And if it was easy, then most people would be doing it. And trust me, most people are not doing it. Most people are not anywhere near that. So getting up to a 70% savings rate, it's not going to be from 0 to 70. It's going to be a slow, gradual increase. There are going to be fluctuations. The whole year is going to average out to be different than the previous year, and so on and so on. And here's another problem with your savings rate. Generally, when we're looking at savings rate, we're looking at an online calculator that's going to tell us how long it's going to take us to achieve financial independence based on me saving this amount of our income. But if you are doing that calculation, that means that while you're in retirement, while you are living a financially independent lifestyle, you're going to be living on a similar amount of spending as you are now. You may need more, you may need less. So spending is probably not going to be constant. It's probably not going to be the same as when you are working versus when you're not working. You may want to live a lifestyle that is actually a little bit more spending than you do now while you're working. You might not have that much free time now because you're working so many hours, you're working on getting that high income, and you're working on achieving a high savings rate. So you might not have that much time to really enjoy all of your extra spending. And while you are financially independent, when you do choose to retire, you may want to actually spend more money in retirement, and that's perfectly fine. But if you do, then that means that the savings rate isn't exactly going to be the best indicator of when you're able to achieve financial independence. There are many different ways that you can estimate and calculate when you can achieve your financial independence date or when you can achieve your FIRE number. I think it's a combination of all these things. So we can't just rely on savings rate because that would be a problem. Savings rate is good. It is a good numerical number to see if you are doing well, if you're meeting some general goal or some general guidelines that you're trying to achieve in your life. But savings rate is not going to be the end all be all to you getting to financial independence and you enjoying a really great early retirement lifestyle. Instead, we have to take a combination of our savings rate, a combination of a FIRE number, and a combination of a date when we want to achieve like early financial independence. So our entire FIRE plan, it's going to have to encompass like kind of all of these things. All of these different factors should be considered when we're choosing when to become financially independent. So that is why I would say no, a 70% savings rate is not sustainable because it is not going to be the end all be all to you achieving a financial independence goal. But this still leads me to a big question here. I really want to know from you in the comments below. What is your savings goal? How much money are you trying to save for financial independence? What is your savings rate? Another video that you really need to watch that I created is about calculating your savings rate. So you have to know how to correctly calculate your savings rate. And that's why I made a little guide for you on how to correctly calculate your savings rate. So check out that video after this video if you haven't already. It's gonna pop up right next to me, okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.